tell your children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun.
How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me. Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head? The room was completely black. I hugged her and she hugged back. Like the sailor said, quote, ain't that a hole in the boat? My head keeps spinning, I go to sleep and keep grinning. If this is just the beginning, my life is gonna be beautiful. I've sunshine enough to spread. It's just like the fella said. Tell me quick, ain't love a kick in the head? Fellow once said, ain't that a kick in the head? Like the sailor said, quote, ain't that a hole in a boat? My head keeps spinning, I go to sleep and keep grinning. If this is just the beginning, my life is gonna be beautiful. She's telling me we'll be wed. She's picked out a king-size bed. I couldn't feel any better or I'd be sick. Tell me quick, oh, ain't love a kick? Tell me quick, ain't love a kick in the head?
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the Only Citizens Vote bus tour. I'm Jenny Beth Martin I'm the honorary chairman of Tea Party Patriots Action. We are the primary sponsor. We are the primary sponsor of this Only Citizen Vote bus tour, and we have several coalition partners with us, including the Texas Public Policy Foundation, the Election and Transparency Initiative, the State Freedom Caucus Network, and then we also have the Election Integrity Network, and I may be missing one. Oh, yes. Shimolinski's been with me all this time. Okay, and the Immigration Accountability Project. So we've got a great group of coalition partners working to pull this bus tour together. And the whole purpose of the bus tour is to pass the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act will ensure that we must show proof of citizenship to register to vote. It's pretty simple legislation, and it has passed the House of Representatives twice, once in the last Congress and once in this Congress. It even had bipartisan support, not a massive amount, but we still had Democrats who voted for it, including in this Congress 4 Democrat members of the House. Over 80% of Americans agree with us on this issue. Only American citizens should be voting in American elections for President, Senate, and Congress. Yet the bill still has not been taken up in the Senate. When in the last Congress, Senator Schumer was not going to take it up at all. And so far in this Congress, Senator Thune has not taken it up. Now, I suspect that part of the reason he has not taken it up is because he doesn't have enough votes to get past the filibuster. We must have 60 votes to break the filibuster, which means that Democrats must vote for it. Considering the fact that 87% of Americans agree with us on this issue, Democrats should be voting for it, including our 2 senators here in the state of Georgia. But because of the way that Democrats are acting, and they're just being very, very partisan right now on Capitol Hill, we are pushing to have the SAVE Act attached to what's called must-pass legislation. This is legislation that members of Congress feel they must vote for, because if they don't, their constituents will be angry or something bad will happen. For instance, they have to vote to fund the government. And if they don't vote to fund the government, then the government will shut down. Now, personally, I've been in favor of government shutdowns more than one time. But what I learned during those efforts is that members of Congress are completely averse to government shutdowns. They do not want them at all. And since they don't want them, and since they are very likely to vote on appropriation bills or a continuing resolution to keep the government funded, we think that they should attach the SAVE Act to that kind of legislation to force the vote in the Senate. And we think at that point, because the Democrats, and not just Democrats, but Republicans, Democrats, just all of the elected officials on Capitol Hill feel like they must vote for things to keep the government funded, we have a good chance of getting it passed. Now, some people have said, why didn't it get attached to the One Big Beautiful Bill? The One Big Beautiful Bill did bypass the filibuster, and there's a process in the Senate that allows that to happen. Those items, that is called the reconciliation process, a budget reconciliation. And everything that is in a bill like that, in a reconciliation bill, must relate to the budget. This bill has very little budgetary impact and actually focuses much more on the policy. And because of that, it would not be able to be applied to a bill like a reconciliation bill. So Congress is out right now, and they're out for this month, but they will be going back to D.C. in September, and they'll be voting on appropriation bills and possibly a continuing resolution or some other funding bill. They have to do that because on October 1st, the new fiscal year begins. And once that new fiscal year begins, they have to fund it. They have to fund the government before that year begins, which is on October 1st. If we are not successful in September, going into the new fiscal year, we can still work on other kinds of must-pass legislation like the Defense Authorization Act, the National Defense Authorization Act. So we do have another bite at the apple, but we're trying very hard to get this done in September. Then one other question that we get, a lot of people will say, well, it is already illegal for non-citizens to vote in elections. So why do you need this? Well, first, we all know it's illegal to do a lot of things, and yet the government still puts checks and balances in. Like, there's a speed limit, and we know we have to follow the law. And yet on our way here from Alabama last night, we saw 6 different state troopers on the road coming here. So we still have a process in place, even when things are legal or illegal, to check and make sure people are following the law. The second thing is that in some states and municipalities, they are now allowing non-citizens to vote in state and local elections. That means that non-citizens, not here in Georgia, but in other places around the country, non-citizens are getting on the voter rolls. And if they are not being very, very diligent to ensure that those non-citizens are getting on the voter rolls to vote in the state and local elections, they have to make sure they don't get the ballot that includes president, Senate, and Congress. And so it gets a little bit messy when that is happening. The voter rolls get, which are oftentimes messy already, get more messier. Then the other reason, and the real reason that prompted me to be involved in this, is that I learned that in the state of Arizona, they do require proof of citizenship to register to vote, and they have for many years. They got sued over this law, the state law that they had to require proof of citizenship to register to vote. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. And at the Supreme Court said, you must accept the National Voter Registration Act form. Now, the National Voter Registration Act, in layman's speak, is a motor voter law, the law that allows us to register to vote at a driver's license office. That form has a simple checkbox on it that you say that you are affirming you are a citizen under penalty of perjury, but there is no requirement to show proof that you are a citizen. So it's just a simple checkbox. And the state of Arizona has to accept that because that is the form that is coming from the National Voter Registration Act law, the federal law. What Arizona did to deal with this situation is that if you show proof of citizenship when you register to vote, then you get a ballot that has president, Senate, Congress, governor, lieutenant governor, all the way down to their lowest local level office, school board, or whatever their lowest local level office is. However, if you have not shown proof of citizenship, then you still get a ballot. And on that ballot, you can vote for president, Senate, and Congress. It's called the federal-only ballot. And I heard that, and I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever heard of. And then I learned about the Supreme Court case. To their credit, the Supreme Court did not make new law out of whole cloth from the bench. And as a constitutional conservative, I appreciate that. But they pretty much were saying you've got to accept this form, and if Congress intends for there to be proof of citizenship, Congress needs to make that clear in the law. And that's why we're working on the SAVE Act, and that's really the impetus for how we came to work on this. The bill was co-sponsored. The original sponsors in the House of Representatives were Congressman Chip Roy and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. On the Senate side, it is Senator Mike Lee. And all of the Republicans in the House of Representatives voted for it. And again, like I said, 4 Democrats did vote for it. So that explains to you why we're here and what we're doing. And at the end, I'm going to go through and give you some calls to action. Now, today we're joined by some of our coalition partners and also some state reps and other people who are here from Georgia. And the first person that I'm going to have come speak, I'm supposed to have started this with an invocation. So the very first person I'm going to have is Ricardo Davis, who is the chairman of the Constitution Party, and he's going to do a slightly delayed invocation. Thank you, Ricardo.
Why, thank you. Well, not only do I have the pleasure of serving as the state chairman of the Constitution Party of Georgia, but I'm also one of the founders of Voters Organized for Trusted Election Results in Georgia. And ladies and gentlemen, if you can't trust whether or not the individuals on your voter rolls actually have the legal authority to vote, you can't trust the results. So we need this law. All right, now for the invocation. From The book of Proverbs, chapter 14, starting in verse 33. Wisdom rests in the one who has understanding, but in the hearts of fools it is made known. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a disgrace to any people. Father God, we come before you right now, recognizing that the root problem, if we go all the way down, Lord, it is that we're in a cosmic battle where wickedness has the ascendancy. It has a grip on our civil government. Lord, we cannot change things. We recognize that unless, as it says over in 2 Chronicles, unless my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, we have no hope. But if we do, if we seek, if we turn, then we have the promise. Just as the nation of Israel then had that promise, that you will hear from heaven, that you will forgive our sins, and that you will heal our land. So, Father, this legislative battle is just one aspect, again, of a challenge that at its root is a sin, Lord. For my father's generation, Lord, who fought for equity at the ballot to be fully citizens here in the South. And Father, we want to keep it that way. We want to make sure that the law clearly specifies who is able to vote. They must be a citizen of these United States. So, Lord, as we turn, as we look at what's going on, as we see the challenges of unrighteousness all over the place, Lord, this is one thing that we can do. Lord, we can repent from our, let's just say, lack of attention to the fact that our ability to vote is being stolen from us, and in some cases, literally being given to someone else who is not a citizen. We can turn to you and we can ask, Father, that you would give us favor in establishing and making firm the law that protects the vote of every citizen in this nation. So we ask, Father, that you would bless Jenny Beth and the rest of the team, not only here, but as they travel. And that, Father, that this message would reverberate, not just here in Atlanta, Father, but from Chattanooga all the way down to Brunswick and everywhere in between, that your people would take a stand and would let their senators know that we expect them to do their duty to uphold their old oath of office that they took and support this bill. Lord, we pray these things in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Our next speaker is going to be State Representative Charlize Byrd. She is the founding member of the Georgia State Freedom Caucus here in Georgia, and the State Freedom Caucus Network is one of our coalition partners, and Charlize Byrd is one of my dearest friends.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon. I am Charlize Byrd, State Representative, District 20 out in Woodstock, Georgia, as well as the chair of the Georgia Freedom Caucus. And I want to introduce my good friend, Noelle Cahan. She is also a state representative and serves in the Freedom Caucus. I want to thank all of y'all for being here today. What a great turnout. Yes, indeed. I want each one of you to know that I wholeheartedly endorse the SAVE Act, because ensuring the integrity of our elections is absolutely fundamental to preserving our democracy. Far too long, we relied on an honor system, assuming only eligible citizens are registering and casting their ballots. The SAVE Act offers necessary reform. In 1923, Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin remarked, "I consider it completely unimportant who in the party will vote or how, but what is extraordinarily important is this: who will count the votes and how." We understand that voter fraud is a component to the socialist strategy. We are required to show identification for everyday activities like driving, flying, picking up a package from UPS. It is only reasonable to require citizen proof before voting in an election. In an era when confidence in our institutions matter more than ever, common sense safeguards should unite us around the principle that every vote must be earned and verified. We must guarantee only American citizens are participating in our elections. This is not a partisan issue. It is a matter of principle. Americans deserve to have confidence that our elections are free from fraud and every legitimate vote is counted. The SAVE Act is a reinforcement of our democratic values, and it protects our system, upholds the rule of law, and defends the rights of American citizens. One of my favorite quotes is, "Courage is the route to change." This is a call to action. If you want change, call, email, text Congress to get the SAVE Act done. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Charlize. Our next speaker is also a coalition partner. He is Ken Cuccinelli. He's the chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, and he's the former acting deputy secretary for the Department of Homeland Security.
Thank you, Jenny Beth. Well, first I want to thank Jenny Beth and the Tea Party Patriots for leading this coalition effort to bring so much attention to the SAVE Act. She explained where it is in Congress wonderfully, as she always does, and we do need your help, and we need people to contact your senators to let them know that Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Vegetarians all want this passed. And the only opponents tend to be elected people on the left. Ordinary Democrats that you know in your neighborhood support protecting the vote for U.S. citizens, which is why every time it's on the ballot, it passes overwhelmingly. It's also why some of those radical leftists don't want it on the ballot. I will tell you, going a little farther, not to take everyone to law school, but it is illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections and most state elections. Jenny Beth pointed out that there are localities now in states that are trying to change that with mixed success on their part, and we fight them every step of the way. But the fact of the matter is there's no way to enforce this legal requirement. The checkbox on a federal form is not enforcement. That is not enforcement. Enforcement is when you register to vote, proving you're a U.S. citizen, which is what the SAVE Act would require. So there would finally be a federal requirement instead of a federal block, because of that Supreme Court case you heard about, a federal requirement to enforce the citizens-only law in federal elections. That is a complete reversal, and when you hear people on the other side say it's already illegal, that would be, to use Jenny Beth's drive example with the state troopers, that would be like having no one sitting alongside the road with radar guns. Who's gonna enforce the speed limit? Nobody is. You'd literally have to walk in and admit guilt, and that is not what people breaking the law do. I can tell you that as a former Attorney General of Virginia. That's not how we catch them. We catch them because we have tools of enforcement, and even better, once you put those tools in place, guess what? They don't show up. They don't show up. You prevent the problem on the front end. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? And we could increase everyone's confidence in our elections. We could eliminate one source of fraud in our elections, and we could reinforce the sovereignty of every American citizen and their ownership of it through the power of their vote by not diluting it with non-citizens voting. And I think it's very appropriate to be doing this today in Atlanta, here in Fulton County, which seems quite resistant to following the election laws. We'll find out if that changes later today with the court hearing across town. So impressed with our allies here in Georgia who have continued to fight even against their media and against the conventional wisdom and so forth. Everybody's been beating on Georgia since 2021, and Georgia's been getting it right. Georgia's been getting it right, and I hope the courts will set the Fulton County election board, if I'm saying the title correctly, straight today and block their nullification of the law and allow that board to do its business and to protect elections in Fulton County, here in Atlanta. And Lord knows we could use more confidence in elections in Atlanta. And I hope after today we're going to see that. And the SAVE Act would help yet again. So we have these issues at the state level, we have them at the federal level, and you're dealing with them right here locally. So you all have our prayers here locally and appreciate your efforts. And again, thank you to Jenny Beth, not just for today, but for trucking across the country, or busing across the country in this case, to, as she has so many times in the past, to bring the issue to the people in so many different places. And I really appreciate that about your whole effort, Jenny Beth. So proud to be here with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ken. And we're going to hear more about Fulton County in a moment, but before we do that, we're going to go to former State Rep Vernon Jones.
How y'all doing? All right, hold those signs up high. There you go. Only citizens vote. Stop illegal voting. Y'all got that? Hello, Georgia. To keep hope alive. First of all, let me say to Jenny Beth, thank you so much for your leadership, for your dedication, for your commitment to clear, transparent election integrity. You have worked in the trenches, and your staff and your volunteers, you have made it clear that you want to save the SAVE Act and get it passed. Also, I see a number of other people here, our state reps, Representative Byrd and Nicole. Thank you all for serving in the state legislature. I've served there for 12 years. I did 2 tours. I know your responsibility and your commitment to the state of Georgia, and we always need your voice, and thank you for being here. I saw Josh McCoon, the chair of the party. Thank you so much for your leadership and keeping us all on one accord. We will follow you to the end, Josh. You have been committed, dedicated, and your results are paying off. So thank you so much. And all the others, there's so many people here I like to recognize. You know, I am just, she mentioned I'm a former state legislator, but I know legislation. And I'm also a former county chief executive where I had to oversee an election office. I had to work to make sure we had adequate locations, adequate machines that were working and working efficiently, addressing the long lines and many other things. So I understand election integrity and making sure that every vote counts, making sure that every vote is counted accurately. Now, the SAVE Act is very clear. It's not partisan. It's not against the Democrats. It's not against the Republicans. As a matter of fact, it's for them. It's for putting in the right mechanisms, not only to make sure that only American citizens vote, but to make sure there's some teeth in that legislation so it can be enforceable. It has to be enforceable. And let me just say this, I welcome and I value and appreciate immigration. And please, you're welcome to come to America, but come the right way. Go through the process, become a United States citizen, and you have that inalienable right to go and exercise your constitutional right to vote. And we want you to vote. But there are those who are politically driven, and I might add, mostly it's coming from those who are rejecting the SAVE Act, those on the Democrat side. Why? Because they're looking at how many people they can get on the road to sustain and keep those politicians in office. But that's not the way it should be. And so she has made it clear, Jenny Beth, when she talked about the Supreme Court decision. She's made it clear when she talked about the Supreme Court decision. What we have to do now. Is there security around? Okay.
How did you come? How did your family come?
So I'm going to carry on. The good thing about America, people have the freedom of speech. And so I support and recognize that gentleman expressing himself as long as he's doing it legally. So I'm glad he's here. That's more participants. But what I was saying was, Jenny Beth was very clear on what the Supreme Court ruled. So what we have to do now is take a legislative action to a judiciary decision to make sure that we pass this SAVE Act where we have those mechanisms and those checkpoints, those enforceable checkpoints in place to ensure a free, fair, and transparent election. Now, let me be clear before I relinquish the microphone. I have stood shoulder to shoulder from day one with President Trump on a clear and precise initiative to make sure there are free, fair, and transparent elections. I'm not going to back down, back off, or back away. Nobody here is going to do that. We are going to fight for it. And so I thank you, those who are gathered here today. This is just the beginning, and we're going to get it passed. And I want to say finally to the media that's here, I hope that you shape the narrative of this discussion as people not here anti-immigrants, not here to say that immigrants aren't welcome here. But look, we want you to be American citizens. We want you to vote, but we want you to do it the right way. And this is not an attack on one party or the other. This is about the Constitution and being a citizen of America. And that's all it is. So I hope that you craft this in a way that we welcome immigrants and we welcome people to vote, but they have to be a United States citizen. And we're seeing too many local governments where they're allowing illegals to vote in elections, and it's just not right. So thank you so much again, Jenny Beth, for your leadership, and thank all you guys. Way to go. Let's keep up the fight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vernon. Thank you. And now we're going to hear from the Republican State Party Chairman, two party chairmen today, Josh McCune.
Thank you, Jenny Beth. And I do want to say, everybody's talked about this, but I'm so grateful for Jenny Beth's leadership and Tea Party Patriots' leadership, not only in this fight today, but in making sure we elected Donald J. Trump President of the United States in November, including here in Georgia by a historic margin. One of the lessons I think we learned in 2020 is that we can't simply rely, to use the quote Representative Byrd mentioned, we can't simply rely on those charged with counting the votes to make sure that we have a fair election. And so since 2021, the Georgia Republican Party has had a very strong election integrity program. And really, passage of the SAVE Act is one more step forward in that fight for election integrity so that everyone on the left and the right can have confidence in our result, because that is what our system is based on. And if you think about it, when you change the laws, you change behavior. Over in that Capitol in 2021, the legislature passed Senate Bill 202. One of the things it required is that you put a wet signature on a piece of paper to prove you're a flesh and blood human being to get an absentee ballot. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution, don't take my word for it, after that law was implemented in 2024, over 354,000 people who voted absentee in the 2020 election did not vote at all in the 2024 election. You will not convince me that that was for any other reason than we cut out the fraud by insisting that people prove who they say they are to get an absentee ballot. By the same token, we are insisting at the Georgia Republican Party and the Fulton County Republican Party and the Republican National Committee that we have equal and fair representation on the Fulton County Board of Registrations and Elections. And you don't have to have served in that legislature, and you don't have to have gone to law school. I'm a law school graduate too, to understand what the word shall means. And the statute that governs this process says the party nominates, and they shall confirm if they meet 3 legal qualifications. And it seems like the only people in this state that don't understand that are the 5 Democrats on the Fulton County Board of Commissioners. So we got together with the Republican National Committee, the Fulton County Republican Party, Jason Frazier, Julie Adams, and we said, we're going to fight this. And so we got some great lawyers. They sued. We got in front of a fair judge in Fulton County, and that judge heard all the argument, and he said, shall means shall, put them on the board. Now, that really should have been the end of it, you know. But, of course, we're in Fulton County, so it wasn't the end of it. They then said, well, hold on, don't enforce your ruling until we have a chance to appeal. The judge said no. Then they went over to that judicial building. They asked the Court of Appeals. They said, y'all hold on. Stop this judge's ruling until our appeal can be heard. The Court of Appeals said no because they said, you're not going to win. Shall means shall. And despite all of that, they had a commission meeting, and they flouted a lawful court order. I never want to hear a Democrat lecture me about the rule of law ever again after how these people behaved. So this morning in court, they were brought up on contempt charges. And I know a ruling hasn't been made yet, but what I hope happens is that Judge Emerson jails every Democrat member of that board until they comply with the law, because it is the only thing they understand. But let me just say this about the SAVE Act. In states like Georgia, where we have what's called automatic voter registration, which means when you get your driver's license, unless you tell them, I don't want to be registered to vote, they register you to vote automatically, you get a lot of garbage in the system from people moving around the state. But also remember, not everyone eligible for a Georgia driver's license is a U.S. citizen. So you can have people who aren't even thinking about committing a fraudulent act, who are registered to vote unknowingly, get a precinct card in the mail, and think, well, I guess I get to go vote, right? So that's why we need this vital tool in the toolbox here in Georgia, because we don't know. We don't know how many records are invalid, and we don't know how many people are on those rolls that are not entitled to vote at all. So again, I thank you, Jenny Beth, for your leadership on this issue, and the Georgia Republican Party joins you in this fight to make sure we get the SAVE Act passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. Thank you very much, Josh. And now we're going to hear from Julie Adams, who is with the Election Integrity Network and also should be on the Board of Elections in Fulton County if the Fulton County Board of Commissioners were doing what they were supposed to do.
Thank you, Jenny Beth. And thank you for all you and Tea Party Patriots are doing. My name is Julie Adams. I am a member of the Fulton Board of Registrations and Elections. And I also work for Election Integrity Network. We were in court this morning, and a lot has been said about it. So we're waiting for the judge to answer. But what I have to say is what I saw in court this morning was shocking. The Board of Commissioners, the ones that voted no against Jason and I's appointment, they have had Instagram videos that they've made of themselves, and they had a courthouse press meeting this morning right outside the courthouse saying they understand the law and they're willing to break it. They're willing to take the consequences. Then I saw that one of the commissioners actually last night was sending out text messages to raise money off the fact that he has said no against the judge's orders. I mean, that's just incredible, you guys. And I kept thinking, maybe they should get me up there. I'll explain to each and every one of them what the word shall means. I know what it means. So enough about that. I totally support the SAVE Act. I do think it's ridiculous that we need to have this law, but it's become a problem for all the reasons that you've heard. It has truly become a problem. We need to get back to the day where only U.S. citizens vote, only U.S. citizens work in elections, and everything used in our elections is made by U.S. citizens. Thank you. And I just want to say again, I totally support it. I want to thank Jenny Beth and the Tea Party Patriots and all of the coalition partners and partners that are here today. What they're doing is so significant. They started a couple weeks ago in California. I've looked at their schedule. They're stopping every day and sometimes twice a day. And I really appreciate what they're doing to get the word out. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Julie. And now we're going to hear from Jason Frazier, who also should be on the Board of Elections in Fulton County if the County Commission were following the law.
Thank you. And I really appreciate everybody coming out and supporting today. Yes, as Julie mentioned, I think she covered most of the bases. I'm very shocked that Julie and I are not both on the board today. As many of you know, I've worked with a lot of folks across Georgia and across the state. The SAVE Act is very, very important. It's vital. And based on what I've seen in the voter rolls, I mean, if people are double registered, people have typos in their names, people have missing birthdays, missing addresses, I don't have any idea how they check to see if they're a citizen if they don't even have the name, address, or birth date right. So we need to clean up the system. We need to clean up all the processes. We need to, in my opinion, double check all of these values, make sure that addresses are right, make sure that if somebody lives at Main Street Northwest instead of Main Street Southwest, you get that correct so that individual doesn't go to the polling place and get turned away because they're in the same polling place as their spouse in the same house, but yet they are registered improperly because Fulton County and a lot of these other counties just do not verify that data. So it's important for the individuals as well as the state to have correct information and verify that they're a citizen. So that's kind of where I've spent my time, and that's why I'd like to be on this on the Fulton County Board of Elections, so that way I can help them to follow the law. So it'll be interesting to see what the judge says today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. I hate that you guys are going through that, but I appreciate the fact that Jason and Julie are standing up for liberty and not backing down. Next, we have Josh Finley, who is the Director of Election Integrity for the Texas Public Policy Foundation.
God bless Texas.
Thank you. It's great to be with you. I'm Josh Finley. I direct the Election Protection Project for the Texas Public Policy Foundation. We were just out there in the bus tour with Jenny Beth with Representative Chip Roy, who authored and sponsored the SAVE Act. And I want to thank you, Jenny Beth, for putting this together. This is so important because we need to let Washington know that average citizens, your average American citizen, believes that only citizens should vote in its elections. You can't see it right now, but behind all of those great people back there, it says this is an 80% issue on that sign. I've heard that it's closer to probably 85 or 87% when you do polling. But this issue is not just about polling. People believe in this issue when they go to the ballot box as well. Y'all may have heard there was a big Supreme Court race in Wisconsin earlier this year that revolved around election integrity, right? There was a leftist that was elected to the Supreme Court in that race. And you'd think that in a statewide race that revolves around election integrity, where they elected a leftist to the Supreme Court. Wisconsin would not be in favor of measures to protect its election integrity. But what people don't talk about is in that same race, at that same ballot, they also passed a voter ID law. What that tells us is that you can politicize election integrity issues all you want, and you can divide people among those issues. But when it comes down to the issue itself, people agree that only citizens should vote and that we should have strong voter ID laws. There were 8 different states in the country this past fall that passed different only citizens vote or voter ID laws to protect the rights of people to vote. That's the reason that this bus tour is so important. The work that our representatives are doing that came out to support this, the grassroots partners, the party members who came out to support this. It's so important because we have to let Washington know the will of the people. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Jenny Beth, for putting this together.
Thank you very much, Josh. And now we're going to hear from Marissa Hamilton, who is with EZAZ. She also is helping Tea Party Patriots Action on this bus tour, and she, their state is the whole reason we've learned about how bad the issue is. And she's going to go over a few calls to action, and then I'll wrap it up.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jenny Beth, and I'm so excited to be here with all of you today and all of our coalition partners. This is amazing. I started working on election integrity many years ago. I think it's almost a decade ago now, because I was previously in the supply chain industry, and I thought, you know, when I was hearing about the problems happening in the elections, I was like, well, this is strange, because in the supply chain, we've been fixing these issues. We have chain of custody and traceability that's nearly perfect, down to like the plant that goes into an ingredient. And I was like, it should be easy with elections because it's just a dry paper ballot. You're not dealing with fresh and frozen and perishable items. And so really when I look at the way government works, it's really just a lack of political will when it comes to securing our elections. Citizen-only voting is common sense, and I know that firsthand in Arizona. I had the pleasure of working with former Senator Kelly Townsend on this, and she's the first one that started digging into this issue. And no one even knew that there was such a thing as federal-only voters. Like, what does that mean? That sounds insane. Why would we have voters on our voter rolls that haven't proven citizenship? And so she worked very hard to try to improve and increase our proof of citizenship requirements. She wasn't successful with that before she departed from the legislature. But one important thing she did do was she passed a law that required them to report how many voters were on the voter rolls who hadn't proven citizenship yet. And when that passed, that started out as less than 2,000 voters in the whole state. It's been about a decade since then, and we have nearly 50,000 voters on our voter rolls that haven't proven citizenship. And as far as I know, we're the only state in the nation that identifies and keeps track of that. And so who knows how many people are on the voter rolls nationwide? And you know, people say, yeah, but in Arizona, you require proof of citizen to vote in your state elections. Yes. But our recorders don't actually get the ability to see the proof of citizenship documents. All they get is a check mark, a digital check mark from the Motor Vehicle Division that says, trust us. Well, we found out last year that it's been glitching. They've known that it's been a glitch since 2015. It's been there for 2 decades. And so the recorders aren't able to identify actual proof of citizenship for these voters. And we have over 200,000 additional voters that haven't shown their proof of citizenship that have been voting in Arizona for decades. Well, you'd say, okay, well, isn't it fixed now? No, it's not. Because last year when we were working in calling voters to make sure that they knew how to vote and could get out there, we found that one of the voters we called, he said, I'm a citizen of France. I don't know how I got registered to vote. And I haven't been able to get off of the voter rolls. And I'm scared that I'm going to be deported because I know it's illegal for me to be registered to vote. But I didn't do it. The system did it for me. Well, now that we've fired the bad recorder and we have a new recorder in there, the new recorder checked the record, and the MVD system, the Motor Vehicle Division system, flagged that he's shown proof of citizenship. How does a citizen of France show proof of citizenship? So I public records request his voting record, and guess what? His voting record has a jury duty form saying he's a citizen of France. So even in Arizona, which has some of the strictest laws in the nation on proof of citizenship, we still don't have it right. And that's why we need the SAVE Act passed. So I want to thank you because this problem exists in every single state. There's no state that's immune to this. So let's go and talk about the calls to action. So you want to go to demandonlycitizensvote.com, demandonlycitizensvote.com, and on there's a link that you can click called Get Involved. And that will give you all the tools that you need to be able to do things like host a ice cream social in your neighborhood, go door to door, or do text messaging to friends and family, and get the word out. Maybe you can do, here in Georgia, it's not as hot in Arizona, so you can do a sign waving on the street corners without melting and having to go to the hospital or something. So I encourage you to get involved, because this is the most important election integrity legislation in the nation. This is the top priority. So if you hear your friends and family, neighbors, fellow people that are involved in politics with you saying, we need to do this or we need to do that to secure our elections, and they haven't signed the petition to pass the SAVE Act, tell them they are failing and to go to demandonlycitizensvote.com. And the other thing is, for everyone that's here today, we have these petition forms here that you can grab a few with you and take them around your neighborhood, take them to events that you're going to, and have people sign it. And then we'll be going to D.C. As Tea Party Patriots on September 10th and be delivering these to your members of Congress and to the Senate, because this needs to be added to must-pass legislation. This is super simple. It's common sense. It's absolutely ridiculous that proof of citizenship is not already law. And so this is our golden opportunity to make it happen. Let's change history and finally have a country that we know that only citizens are voting in our elections. Go to demandonlycitizensvote.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marissa. Okay, so as we wrap up, what we're going to do is have everyone do a couple things. And let me just explain what the bus tour is going to be doing next. We leave Georgia and go to Greenville, South Carolina tomorrow, and then Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina on Friday. The bus repositions and the team flies to Wisconsin, where we begin again on Labor Day. We'll go to Wisconsin, Chicago, Michigan, Ohio, 2 stops in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and then D.C., and we end on September 10th in Washington, D.C. We'll be having a rally, and we'll be turning in the petitions that Marissa just mentioned on Capitol Hill to Senate and congressional offices. Today, as we wrap up, we're going to make sure everyone has a petition that they fill, that they take and have other friends and family and neighbors and co-workers sign, and it's an 87% issue. And chances are most people you talk to are going to agree with you about this issue. Then we're going to walk over towards the bus. You can grab a T-shirt. The T-shirts are free. Grab a T-shirt, take that with you, and then we're going to stand in front of the bus. I'm going to do a quick video for social media, and then my video team is going to get everyone cheering and chanting, and we're going to chant, "Pass the SAVE Act, pass the SAVE Act," and then we'll just kind of cheer and yell, and I'll direct you with that, but they're going to do some video and photos of that. And with that, we're going to wrap up for today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to the press for coming and covering the event, and we look forward to seeing everyone in D.C. on September 10th, and let's get this done. Let's pass the SAVE Act. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you, Vernon, for that. As we were pulling in, I glanced at this, but I haven't really been on my phone and paying very much attention to the news. There was a shooting today at a Catholic church in Minnesota, and we just want to make sure that we are highlighting the fact that we are praying for everyone who is affected by that, and we are very sorry that that happened. We are praying, and we are watching for more details, and we encourage everyone who's watching on the live stream to also keep those family and friends and, of the people who are affected in your prayers. Thank you very much.